This lecture video is about Hinduism. It will supplement your required reading from the textbook, and I've also included a handout that kind of follows this lecture, but also puts some flesh on the bones. This is only meant to be an introduction. And by way of introduction, I can tell you that Hinduism is the world's oldest religion. It precedes any other religion we know. It is truly of antiquity. And for that reason, by way of introduction, it's fair to say that Hinduism doesn't point to one particular founder or one initial prophet, as do so many other religions. And interestingly, nor does it point to any one particular text or one required way and time and manner of worship. And for all these reasons, it makes it sort of difficult to teach because Hinduism is so large and so old. So it's the oldest religion. It's also the third largest religion of our world. So to put all that together, what I think might be a way to get at this for more of a Western mind is for us first to think of Hinduism less of a religion and more of a philosophy, of a conglomeration of philosophical and cultural ideas that originated in an area of the world that we now call India. Because Hinduism is one of the most complicated religions to unpack, and many lifelong Hindus continue to unpack it and learn more. But as a philosophy, you can first think of Hinduism as more of a way of life, of right action over what we might say a right belief or way of thinking. As I said, in Hinduism, as you'll read, there's no exact origin, no founding date that's commemorated, no single text, no prophet, leader, founder, no single day of worship, no prescribed manner of worship, no one single God. In that sense, Hinduism is both polytheistic and monotheistic. It's also a little bit opaque because because it's so ancient, its original texts are written in Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the oldest known language to exist. And the word Sanskrit, interestingly enough, translates as something like perfect or holy, because Hindus believe that their most ancient monks wrote in a perfect language and they communicated such. So all of the sacred texts are written in Sanskrit. Those are introductory materials, kind of to set the stage, but I think what we can say that will be very helpful now, not so much as a philosophy, but as a religion, to boil it all down, and I think this works, it helps to understand as you go to your reading and your handouts that Hinduism's main idea is that there's one God that exists in an infinite number of manifestations. One God, one being, one essence, one purpose. We'll just use the word God, one God that exists in infinite manifestations. Now, to unpack that, as this idea evolved, there are major scriptures of Hinduism. They're called the Vedas. There's 4 of them that describe the 4 basic spiritual laws of how this is all put together, and they've been adhered to by adherents through the millennia. And then each of those 4 sacred Vedas, in turn, have 4 parts. So that's very easy to remember. 4 Vedas, each has 4 parts. What do the Vedas teach? They teach, like I said, that there's one God with infinite manifestations. That one inexpressible essence or power or energy, purpose, God, whatever you want to call it, in Sanskrit or in the Hinduism belief, is called Brahman. Uh, Brahman is a transliteration into the English language using Roman characters. Brahman. Brahman, a Hindu says, like I've said now 5 times, is this one infinite manifestation that it can exist in an infinite number of ways. So there are thousands, millions of gods in the Hindu religion, each one of them in some way expressing or manifesting part of the one essence, Brahman. So in this sense, the faith is both monotheistic, Brahman is all and in all, and yet polytheistic, because Brahman exists in an infinite number of manifestation. His spirit is everywhere. Outside of Brahman, there are lesser, greater gods, if that oxymoron makes any sense. But maybe it'd be better to say fundamental deities. There is Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver of all of this, and Shiva, the destroyer. And just to make it fun, each of those 3 lesser deities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, can have more than one name. And these gods in the Hindu religion are all positive and proactive. And you wonder, well, how could a destroyer god like Shiva be positive? Well, as we're going to get to in just a second, because in the idea of reincarnation, you see, one can only come back to greater life if one first dies. So in that sense, Shiva is part of that trinity of lesser gods, if you will, for lack of a better word. So Brahman, the one essence, one God, is in all things. It's all the power, it's all the energy, all the essence. And so Brahman then, because that's how it, he, she, it is defined, is not just a spirit alive in human beings, but his energy power can be in all things, which is why Hindus also respect all of creation and spirits, trees, animals, rocks, planets, rhythms of life and light. God is also then Brahman because he's personified. It is personified in all these different ways. Gods can also be masculine and feminine, sometimes a composite of animal and human figures that you might have seen. Because again, Brahman is all. And this God manifests itself in an innumerable amount of ways. Which leads to another interesting aspect of Hinduism, and that is because Brahma is all and in all and everywhere, Hindus then also have a great respect for other religions other than Hinduism. Because they would say that all those different philosophies, again, are yet but a different kind of manifestation of the one. And they all lead these paths to the same. There's a wonderful quote that you'll read. Truth is one. The wise call it by various names. Now, with that teaching of the foundational text, then we get to existential questions, questions of existence. So how does this all work? Why am I here? What am I doing? Well, the law of deed, or my karma, is operative as I am here embodying it in the flesh as I wander on the earth. When this container of karma, my good deeds, my spirit, my essence, however you want to call it, when this container finally gives up and dies, then my karma is released, and that energy can come back in another form. And this process of my karma coming back to life, and then going back and coming back, this life factory, if you will, is called samsara. This continual life factory of reincarnation, the spirit coming back, adding to the spirit, refining the spirit. The body dies, the spirit comes back. This can happen an innumerable amount of times, up to 8 million times if need be, until my energy is so refined it is finally and perfectly released from this earthly container. And that moment of release is called moksha or nirvana. Then that spirit, having gone through that life factory so many times, will join the pantheon of these manifestations of the One. Many times then you'll see as a symbol for Hinduism the rolling wheel or the endless circle to illustrate this cycle of reincarnation, this process that we're all involved. However, you'll see in my worksheet that I prefer, and I think it's a better image, not so much just a static flat circle, but I think a better symbol to understand this is the spiral. And the spiral is going up. Because you see, as we're on this endless cycle of moksha, the life factory, there is this idea of ascendancy, where someday we will be released. One Hindu practitioner shared this image with me, which I think might be helpful. And again, all metaphors fail when talking about religions, but they can be helpful nevertheless. They said, think of karma as this grand flowing river, and the karma you have is a drop of water, and that's in my body right now. Right? The moment of death, when the drop of water has to remove itself from the stream, could be symbolized by when the stream hits a rock in the water, and part of that karma is released into the air. That's the moment, then, when I die. But when it's in the air, you see, I don't know, some of the sediment might evaporate, some of it might drop, whatever. But that drop of water then will come back into the stream at a different place and a different time to form a new drop. But because it's kind of been purified in that process, you see, it comes back a little cleaner. And one day, in the metaphor of Hinduism, that stream or your drop of water will hit a rock, your death, and that drop of water will be so pure that it will evaporate and not come back to the river. It will join the rest of creation. That moment in Hinduism teaching then is the moment of nirvana or moksha. I think that metaphor is helpful. Again, it fails, so don't work it too hard. But I think it gets us understanding this idea of the spiral. Now, because we spiral up as our drops of water, karma, get more clean and purified in their reincarnation, Hindus also hold then to a caste system that you'll read about. And there are 4 major castes as one ascends. The lowest caste of humanity would be the untouchables, grave diggers, garbage collectors, beggars, those with a disease like leprosy. The next caste system would be servants, not the untouchables, but domesticated servants, servants that work for a greater good for another person. The next caste would be landowners. In the Western world, we might say white-collar professionals, educated people who don't have to work the land. And the highest caste, the monks or the priests. This gets a little delicate to talk about, and full disclosure, in 21st century America, as you'll read, many Hindus no longer claim or hold to the caste system, because to do so requires a lot of amount of judgment, and that's can be more difficult to do in an egalitarian country like the United States. So you can